All righty, what's up, everybody? This is Sammy Stats back today with some Ryder Cup prediction talk. Alongside me is none other than Boss Man. How we doing, Boss Man?
Well, great. Although golf is pretty much over for the year outside of the Ryder Cup. This was like the first year I got into the FedEx Cup playoffs, mostly for gambling reasons, but kind of ended up falling in love with watching the PGA Tour week by week, especially when you need something during the day to cover that like weird gap in your workday where, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., you could always rely on an ESPN stream to be covering two random ass players. But it was like something to watch. So now that we're kind of deprived of that and, football doesn't really start, I mean, I could turn on SportsCenter and watch what the latest is with Aaron Rodgers based on what they've seen in Hard Knocks. But outside of that, there's like not really much to watch. So, I mean, the Ryder Cup is the only exciting thing we have here as Dimpleheads.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. It's sad that the golf season is officially over. But, it was a hell of a season, had a lot of fun per usual. Year after year, and really the fall season picks up pretty shortly here in the next couple of weeks, which I'll turn into slightly. It's kind of tough because it's a lot of no names and all these top players just won't be playing in it because it's their time to actually get a rest. But it'll still be on my TV every now and then. But we just have about a month until the Ryder Cup, which, as a golf fan, this is pretty much your Super Bowl. I mean, the majors are great, but the Ryder Cup, there's just something different about it. I don't know whether if it's match play or if it's just, two teams going head to head. But it's something that we don't really have in golf other than once a year, whether it's the Ryder Cup year or next year will be President's Cup and then back to Ryder Cup and so on and so forth.
Well, it's like the Olympics. The fact that it only comes around like every few years, and then it's like America versus like Europe. It's the classic. It was like the Revolutionary War. It's like Revenge on Britain. I mean, it's fantastic to represent your country. I feel like too, we also get to see the players get after it, especially when they win. We had JT and Spieth, I think, shotgunning beers last time.
Yeah,
Brooks and Bryson actually became friends. The last Ryder Cup was right after the classic Brooks meme, right, where he sighed as DeChambeau's fucking 8 gigahertz loud spikes were walking by.
Yeah,
and those two became friends. So like, I don't know, the Ryder Cup is just different because a lot of guys who are usually competing against each other are actually on teams. It's like what Live Golf is trying to do all the time, except you doing it every few years just keeps it real.
Yeah, I mean, you get that like extra emotion that you don't get to see like in the regular, season. Like, yeah, you make a putt, maybe it's a fist pump or something, but with the Ryder Cup, I mean, you're like screaming when you great shot.
You sit there and you watch it. First off, if it's in Europe, you have to wake up at like 2 a.m. So let's talk about that first. What's your strategy? Because I want to watch all of it. I don't want to wake up at 2. I guess you could probably stay off Twitter and watch a recording. Yeah. But it's basically impossible not to be on Twitter during one of the greatest sporting events of every 2 years.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's the 1 week I just bite the bullet. My sleep schedule's fucked. It's just one of those things. But I gotta watch every shot. I mean, I just do. Sometimes, especially with like the broadcasting, that they'll try to like push things back as much as they can to get it on par with like with the US time zone. But I don't really, I think it'll still, like, some of the earlier groups will tee off at 4 a.m. here or something, which does suck.
But it sucks a lot.
It does suck. And sometimes you can just say, you know what, I'll miss the morning session, I don't care enough or whatever. But I just try to grind it out and just go to bed at like 7 p.m. and wake up at 3.
Yeah. And for Gopher football fans out there, I did check. There is a home game. I think it's homecoming actually happens that Saturday.
Wow.
A tough alignment of schedules. I might just stay blasted during that entire weekend and just drink myself into a coma. To just stay up for this. I don't really know how else to do it, I guess, other than maybe caffeine and smelling salts. But it's going to be tough. But anyways, I would love to get into kind of what you're thinking in terms of what we're going to see here. I also got a call out that I fucking love your setup. Is that a Caddyshack
Thank
poster
you.
behind
It
you?
is. Yep, it's a
Bill
Caddyshack.
Murray.
One of my favorite golf movies of all time. That it was tough between deciding Caddyshack and Happy Gilmore, but I just watched Caddyshack too many times. Love it.
Rip Bob Barker.
Yeah,
Happy Gilmore.
I know.
Beat the shit out of Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler posted about it too. It was incredible. Great moment for golf.
It really is. I mean, he was like what, 100 or 90?
He was 99. He Gretzky'd it. Yeah, he was like the closest person to be at 100 while not being 100 years old. It was pretty impressive. Yeah.
So that does suck. Yeah, that does suck. That was tough, but I mean, shit, if I lived to 99, I'll be so happy. So
absolutely. Yeah. I probably won't even want to be alive by 99. I'll probably be so sick of all the petty problems on planet Earth. Maybe we'll draw a line at a good 85, maybe even less. I don't know.
That would be fun. That's a good age. But let's get into it. Ryder Cup. Right now, the lines sit USA minus 150, Europe plus 140 on their own home soil. And then I rarely ever see it. I know it's possible. Tie plus 1,300. There actually has been a few ties in recent history. But I don't, I mean, it's so tough to bet on a tie. I mean, it's so unheard of and unlucky or unlikely rather that I would just be picking a side if I'm betting on it.
Well, what do they do for a tiebreaker?
They don't.
They don't. They just the trophy just.
Yeah, I think
they just put it in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean for a couple of years and just put it on a buoy.
I don't think there's a tiebreaker. Like I think they just, if it's like 14.5 to 14.5, it's a draw.
If we're screwing up our sleep schedules for this, if I'm watching this during Gopher football homecoming and this ends in a tie, I'll be fucking pissed. I'll be the first to say I'll denounce the Ryder Cup if that happens.
Yeah. Jack Johansson says, do all 10K employees get airfare to Italy for the Ryder Cup? That's a great question, Jack. What do you think?
Yeah. Based on the current financials of the company, the answer is no. Okay. But if you're willing to donate airfare to the Ryder Cup, we would greatly appreciate it. Also,
what a content trip that would be.
Jake is like the biggest Gopher football fan in the world. Journalist Jake, Kirk Cousins, Mike Hawk, whatever you want to call him. And I will tell you now, even if there was a free trip to the Ryder Cup paid for, he would not miss the homecoming game. He's already missing a game this year to go to the Boundary Waters. Even with this alternative option as something to do, he would still say, fuck that. I want to watch the Gophers play University of Louisiana, Lafayette, or whatever team we'll probably lose to on homecoming. So, yeah, no chance.
I mean, he's dedicated. That's all
I respect it. Absolutely.
Dedicated. Well, let's get into it. Let's go into USA first, the minus 150 favorite. As far as the locks that have been already, out there, Scotty, Windham, Clark, Mr. Harmon, Cantlay, Xander, and Homa. So those are our locks. Those are the guys that finished the best in the FedEx Cup. They already punched their ticket to Rome.
Is this Homa's first Ryder Cup?
Yes.
That's awesome. I love to see it. That's a tour favorite for a lot of people.
Yeah, this is first Ryder Cup. He was on the President's Cup. He made his team debut. So that's great, especially because he's playing some of the best golf of his career. And I mean, he made it solely on points. I mean, it was a no-brainer. He would have been on it either way, but good to see Max Homa throwing on the red, white, and blue.
Yeah, he doesn't win a ton of tournaments, but I feel like his name is always up there.
Yeah, I mean, he's always on the leaderboard.
He always makes cuts. Yeah, and he's solid. I don't know how that translates to match play, but Max Homa's a fan favorite, so it's always good to see a guy like that make the roster.
He didn't lose. He didn't lose in the President's Cup. I think he was 4-0-0.
Damn. So he's a match play. He's made for match play.
That's right.
Fuck yeah. There we go.
So that's great.
Love that.
So all those are locks. They will be coming to Rome, which is pretty good. I mean, it's pretty much the Scotty, obviously, we don't need to really dive into Scotty. Was one of the best on tour. He put up just crazy numbers.
Other than though with Scotty, did you see his foot slide has escalated to like a tiptoe at the end of it? Did you see the tee shot he had on Sunday where he was like tiptoeing after?
Yeah,
that guy's he's gonna get hurt, right? He's gonna get hurt one of these days doing that shit. If he plays a really dewy morning in like a very marshy Florida style course, he's gonna slide all the way off and break his face. It's gonna happen.
No, I definitely agree. It's one of those things where it's like, is he trying to correct his swing fully? Because if he then just don't move your feet. Just practice not moving your feet at all.
Right. Otherwise,
and
that's what the simple answer would be. But the guy is so damn consistent and disciplined at ball striking that like, who's going to have the balls to tell him to stop doing that? It's his putting that needs work. So like, keep doing the foot slide, but we're still just going to be confused.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even mess with his swing. I don't know what he's doing, but again, don't really need to go into him. He put up record numbers this year. Clark, two-time winner, I believe Wells Fargo, and obviously
US Open,
US Open. So that was a no-brainer. Brian Harmon won the Open by like 6 shots. So that was a no-brainer, and also played pretty well, had a bunch of top 20s this year. So that was a lock. He got in on points.
Same style golf course, right? Obviously, like European style, link style. That's I mean, Harmon doesn't hit the ball far, but damn, he hits it straight. He's solid with the flat stick. He chips well. Yeah. That's a guy that we definitely need to have on our side.
For sure. Fairways and greens. Ryan Harmon. And then Cantlay. This was he made it solely on points. He had a pretty good season. He didn't have a win, which was, just a little unusual to see for Patrick Cantlay. But again, it just shows if you're a consistent golfer, you don't need to win to get in on the Ryder Cup here. He solely made it on points. So that was no problem for him. And then Xander. We don't even need to speak on Xander. Lights out.
A gold medalist.
Yeah,
good at Xander Schauffele, good at international matches.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So, and then Homa, and we just kind of briefly spoke on him too. So I like all the picks. Obviously, it was not even up for discussion with these guys as they were auto picks, but that's a good core 6 right there. I like that 6. But let's dive into the bubble players. Right, these are the guys that we are not sure which 6 will be selected. We find out tomorrow morning or afternoon or whenever they announce it. But there's like 12 guys here that you could make an argument of why they should be on the team. And that's what's tough about the U.S. team, right? Because there's so much talent as opposed to the Europe side where, Europe's very top heavy, but with the Americans, it's just loaded, right? So, we'll dive into Brooks. Probably an auto. Obviously, he only played the 4 majors, being with Liv. But he was runner up at the Masters. He won the PGA. Like, this is pretty much a no brainer. Brooks will be in. He's been in Ryder Cup, President's Cups. Really, really no discussion with Brooks Koepka. Very solid. He's definitely getting a selection.
Yeah, he's a major champion. That's huge. But also, like, the weird thing is though, was Zach Johnson was making some comments about Liv and how, like he made it sound like he's on the fence about whether he wants to take them or not. I know they're like, he's rumored, he's obviously a lock if this whole tour never happened, but like we really don't know until he makes his captain's picks if like he's gonna go with Liv guys or not, because he could go either way. I mean, I don't know if he's like a PGA Tour or Hardo or not, but
I totally hear you there. So I mean, that's with the Liv, only playing in 4 tournaments. Obviously, you could go back to what they did on the Liv schedule, but that it's like a fairy tale golf. You don't even.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It's so hard. It's so hard to give credibility to them when they just have that same fucking Empire from Star Wars looking trophy and $4 million to every winner. There's no personality. There's no differences to it. So I don't really It's
And
hard to credit that, but
right.
he showed up for the majors. He should have won the Masters. Let's be honest. He should have won that tournament. He did win the PGA.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. Open and British Open, I don't think he was really up there in, but like you can't ask someone to be top 10 in 4 majors to have to make the Ryder Cup team. So I think he should. He was on my list as well. Yeah.
So I think that is spot on. Then we go to Spieth, Jordan Spieth. Jordan's year was interesting. He had a second this year, RBC Heritage, where he lost in a playoff to Matt Fitzpatrick. He only played in 22 events. Many of them were elevated events. He had 7 top 10s during that span. He's a locker room guy, obviously very talented, but didn't play all too well these last 3 weeks. Still probably think he is in on the team just because of the chemistry that him and Justin Thomas have, and we'll go into Justin Thomas in a little bit here. But I do think Spieth makes it just because he's been in Ryder Cups, he's been in President's Cups, and he's not shy of the spotlight per se.
Well, yeah, that and like he brought us one of the best Ryder Cup highlights of recent history is when
on that mound.
Yeah, where he's on the mound and it's so steep that he has to take like a baseball swing, hit the ball about 100 yards in the air. And the best part about it is it's so steep that like he starts, when you're like running down a hill and you just end up full sprinting because gravity is just pulling you to the bottom of it.
Right.
He had to run like that all the way down to the beach and had to like dig his shoes in so that he didn't just face plant in the ocean or whatever the body of water he was on was. So like, and it was like a good shot, wasn't it? Like he was on the green.
Put it to like 6 feet or something just stupid.
Yeah, and then you had him and JT, high five and shotgunning beers. That's a guy. He played good enough, I think, to like be part of the discussion of, okay, yeah, he didn't have the best season, but he played good enough to where all the other stuff makes up for it. He's probably got a spot for sure. Watching him though in the BMW Championship on the bubble, like he was playing like he didn't even want to make it to the next round.
Right.
Like it was always like, all right, Spieth is fine. He's in 29th. Then he would like bogey hole. It's like, okay, now Spieth is in 30th, but then Seb would like double hole.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, all Spieth has to do is par 17 and 18, finishes like bogey,
right.
Somehow still gets in. So he stresses me out. He played okay. How did he finish in the Tour Championship? I didn't think they showed much of him.
He was like 27th of 30th or 20.
Okay, so not great. Yeah.
No, he was like over par. He just pretty much played like +1 or +2 throughout the 4 days. So, I mean, nothing special there. Obviously took home a bag.
And was still top 30 in the PGA Tour, the season-long race for the FedEx Cup. It's still impressive, but sketchy for sure.
Sketchy. So that's Jordan Spieth for you folks. Next, we'll go into Mr. Colin Morikawa. Morikawa, another interesting one. He got second at the Century, but he blew like a 6-stroke lead with 9 holes to play to lose that tournament to John Rahm. That was one of the first tournaments.
That's the first tournaments of the year, right? It's all the winners from the year before.
Right. So
Century Tournament of Champions.
Tournament of Champions. So
by the way, funny backstory about that. Do you know where the actual company Century is from?
No clue.
Stevens Point, Wisconsin.
So nowhere close to Hawaii where the tournament.
No. And I it's funny just because I played my my sectionals senior year at Stevens Point Country Club. And it might have been the most boring golf course I've played in my life. It still tore me apart. Every hole straight through the trees.
Right.
Whatever. But side story there. But yeah, he did fuck that one up because Rahm was not supposed to win that tournament. No,
he wasn't. So second at the Century, second at the Rocket Mortgage. He actually had a nice Sunday, but it was like him, I believe Adam Hadwin and Ricky Fowler, that like three-man playoff, and Ricky ended up winning on the first playoff hole, which was Ricky's only win, and we'll get to Ricky in a little bit. But another guy that, he played obviously pretty well throughout the year. He had 6 top 10s in 24 events, made the Tour Championship at the end of it, had the hottest Thursday I've ever seen at the Tour Championship. Shot like 9 under to tie the lead, with those starting stroke shit. But then really Friday, Saturday, Sunday was just like he maybe went like a couple under one day, even par the next, maybe a couple under the next day. It was just by the end of it, he's like, oh, I was maybe top 10, but I lost by 12 shots. So really, he just had one awesome day and then just kind of fell apart. Just didn't do a lot. So kind of tough to. I still think he makes it. Just based.
He was on the 2020 team, right?
Yeah. So
I feel like just that first time you're on the team, it always inducts you as like an option. I feel like you're always no matter how shitty of a year. Like you said, we're going to talk about JT, but no matter how shitty of a year you could have, you certainly are always going to get a look if you played in the past, especially on a team that won in the past.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why I think they're, especially with his iron plays pretty solid. I don't really know who he kind of meshes well with. I kind of forget who he was paired up with for President's Cup, Ryder Cup, but I still think he'll be on it just because his irons are so good. And like you said, with just his past experience, he's probably likely a captain's pick. I'd be a little shocked if he wasn't. But that is Colin Morikawa. We'll go down the list here. Justin Thomas, obviously, just kind of brought it up. Justin Thomas, 20 events, no wins, no top fives. He has 3 top tens. I believe he made like 12 or 13 cuts of 20. Even he will say it was his worst year on tour, to date. Justin's a tough one, right? Because he meshes so well with Spieth. He's had I believe he's 16-5-1 in Ryder Cup matches. Obviously, he's played in 3 or 4 Ryder Cups plus a couple President's Cups. I mean, he's got all the experience in the world when it comes to this format of match play. But he just had such a shit year. That, even himself was like, I don't know if they pick me, amazing, but he seemed even skeptical himself, and I think everyone else did too.
He's kind of the heart of the team, though. He's
right.
He's like the most vocal. He's like a leader. He'd be like a leader in that locker room. Like if you look at those names, Scotty, Wyndham, Brian Harmon, Cantley, Homa, Xander. I mean, Xander maybe, I could see being a lower a voice. Scotty maybe, but like no one matches name value like JT in this tournament. So it's so hard not to pick him.
I know.
There's so many things that scream. It's kind of like the NFL player who had a really bad season, who's lower in the fantasy draft.
Right.
And it's like the second round and you're like, I really want this guy on my team. Like his name, there's that certain feeling his name brings you.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like it's going to be for Zach Johnson. Like you're going to just see past the failure of the year and be like, this is a guy who's so good. He's going to figure it out. I mean, if you think about the PGA Tour right now, who's probably like the second biggest name on it next to Rory? It's probably JT, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, so.
And that's why it was so unusual for him to struggle that much. But you're right. I mean, not only is he a locker room guy and has all the experience in the world, but he also he's just, Mr. Ryder Cup. He gets up for these events.
Yeah.
And, he's just a guy that if you're playing against him, you just hate it, right?
Yeah.
Team Europe, it's like, well, shit, I know he had a tough year, but like he's still Justin Thomas. He still brings that like,
the emotion, the passion. Like you even saw his final hole of the year where he was, on the cut line of getting into the playoffs, and he was fighting like hell despite the fact that his golf game was so bad.
Yeah.
Was fighting like hell with all the emotions and all the, he put everything into trying to make it. Like even if he's not playing great, he's going to figure out a way to do it. I was saying no JT, but now I'm talking myself into it. I think he's almost a lock at this point. And
it's one of those things. I think he also just committed. And who knows, maybe he already got the call, and so he committed right away to the Fortinet Championship in a few weeks. It's like one of the fall tournaments that he's playing in. And then Homa's playing in it just because he's the defending champ. So it was
that's a big Homa tournament right there.
So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Oh, well, JT's playing in this tournament. Maybe he's trying to get ready for the Ryder Cup. Who knows? I mean, we'll know officially tomorrow. But yeah, I think you're right. I think JT's in it.
And I don't know if you follow Nuclear Golf on Twitter, but they tweeted that there's lots of rumors floating around, lots of trusted sources. I don't know if those trusted sources are Zach Johnson's wife, who's just always on the iPad. You follow the U.S. Men's Ryder Cup Twitter page. It's always just like just pictures of like Zach Johnson with a notebook and his wife who's on an iPad. I'm not sure where it's getting leaked, but they say that JT is basically like a rumored to get picked. Ricky Fowler is rumored to get picked. But then like Brooks, Spieth, Morikawa, and I know we'll probably get into it, but like Keegan Bradley are all kind of still like the other three question marks. If those three that we thought are rumored are going to get picked. So it's, I don't know, man.
Cody says, I feel like JT is PGA's Landon Donovan this year if he doesn't get picked. And I kind of agree.
Yeah. I mean, he is the American golfer. Like, obviously the European golfer is Rory McIlroy, and it was Tiger Woods, but now that Tiger is not really involved and not physically able to play, I mean JT is kind of our hero. He's kind of our guy. Like, he's got more charisma and more name value than anybody on tour, other than maybe like Spieth and Fowler. So I mean, I feel like, just for name brand value, again, you have to pick him, and you just have to pray that he's going to fucking figure it out.
100%. Okay, moving on, and we'll just go briefly through these next. But Keegan Bradley, a guy we just mentioned, it's really tough because Keegan, in my opinion, I truly believe he deserves to be on this team. In 23 events, he has 2 wins, which is more than a lot of guys that are trying to get in, if not the most. He won at the Zozo, which again was earlier on in the year, but still a big time win. And then he won at the Travelers, which is a massive tournament, huge win. Keegan, 6 top 10s on top of that in 23 events. Keegan seems like a guy, and Keegan's played on a few Ryder Cups when he was, maybe a younger player. And like Zach Johnson was like, a Top Gun. Obviously Tiger was a Top Gun. He's played, I want to say 2 or 3 Ryder Cups. Again, it was a little bit of a long time ago, but it's a guy that he's played so well this year. I totally think he deserves it. Unfortunately, there's just only 12 spots, and I just don't. He would be great for the locker room, but I'm not sure he gets the go. I'd love to see him. He deserves it, but
he is certainly a bubble guy. I don't think he does, just looking at some of these other names. But he did play so well, and even when he, after he won, he was always up there in the mix in the majors. Just always kind of plays solid. What's the stats on him missing cuts? He probably doesn't miss a lot of cuts.
No, I believe he missed 3 of 23 events.
Yeah, so he's been solid all year. He's always been up there. And just such a random guy to come out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know if you had this guy on your list, Lucas Glover. Who the fuck ever would have thought that he would come back into the mix and be considered for the Ryder Cup?
It was, I mean, getting to Glover, then it was, he struggled in the earlier parts of the year, but at the end of the day, he won the Wyndham. He won the FedEx. I mean, that alone is just nuts to go back to back at those 2 tournaments, especially the FedEx St. Jude with a loaded field, as loaded as it gets. He had 5 top 10s this year. He played some really, really exceptional golf. His last, I believe it was like 20 rounds. He was under, he broke 70 in the last 20 rounds. But again, just unfortunately, just in my opinion, I know he's been playing well, but I don't see him on the Ryder Cup team.
Yeah, that. And one thing to consider for Mr. Johnson is that Europe is traditionally a cooler place, so he won't have to be sweaty. He can wear quarter zips, he can wear dark colors, he can wear light colors.
I know.
He might like that a little better. He might not have to worry about everyone seeing his sweaty fucking body all over the place. So at least that's one less thing to worry about. He might be better in a cool climate place like Rome. So I don't know.
100%. So again, I'm kind of crossing off Glover.
I think statistically speaking, like if you want to go by the numbers, Bradley or Glover easily take JT's spot, maybe Spieth's spot too, if you want to take the hot hand.
Right.
But there's just more to it than just the numbers. There's the quantitative side, which just screams those two over, Spieth and JT. But the qualitative side of just the energy they bring, the voices they have in that locker room, the experience they have in this tournament, that makes you be like, it's hard to see. It's hard to get past that. It's hard to see past it. So dude, I don't know.
100%. Yeah.
It's tough.
No, totally agree there. Going on to a player that I personally thought he would be in, but now I'm definitely second guessing myself. Cam Young.
He was like a lock about a month ago, at least is what they made it sound like. And now you don't really even see his name in the mix.
No. The one deal with Cam Young, which, he missed the Tour Championship for the top 30 of the year, but he's got 5 top 10s. He only played 22 events. He didn't come really close to winning any tournaments. He did get the runner-up. He was in the championship match at the Dell match play, where Sam Burns beat him like 6-up.
Yeah, just fucking annihilated him.
Yeah, no.
They also, it's kind of funny because they're part of the same sponsorship team. They're both always on that. RBC, their team RBC, which believes in excellence, like them, and then Thigala, and then Sam Burns just kicks his ass and just a mass murder. Yeah,
which is that. I'm one of those guys. Cam Young, he I believe he was like 2-1-1 or something in his last I think it was President's Cup. I don't have him in. I had him in. Now I don't. He's again, you missed the Tour Championship. I think there's just better guys for that spot, more deserving guys, really.
Yeah.
So that's for Cam Young. Then we go to Ricky. Ricky is, I think he's in, but that's another one. He won the Rocket Mortgage. He was runner-up at the Zozo, 2 really good events he played in. He had 8 top 10s this year. I mean, that is kind of
an absolute bounce back here from a guy who everyone wanted to see do it. So
8 top 10s. He played in 25 events. He only missed 2 cuts. For the most part, he just played rock solid. Pretty much after, unfortunately, he didn't win the U.S. Open when Clark pretty much just took the spotlight from him. He didn't play super well over that stretch. But he still made the Tour Championship. He still had one hell of a year. I definitely think Ricky should be in. Ricky, I'd love to see the trio of Ricky, JT, and Spieth back there.
The spring break boys, minus Smiley Kaufman. Yeah, reunited once again now, but they're all married and have kids now, so they're a little more well behaved.
Right, definitely a little more well behaved. But I think Ricky gets in. It's especially with the bounce back year. I mean, he's just so damn good that I don't see him getting slumped. But
it was so the best Ricky moment of the year was when he made that putt at Rocket Mortgage, and you could just see like 3 years of shit taking and all of the headlines, and him having to show up to the 3M Open, which we all know he didn't want to do, even though we loved having him here. So I just remember seeing his sigh of relief, and ever since then, I think he's been he's been back in contention. He could be a guy who we could hopefully finally see win a major. But it'd be great to see him on the team. Yeah, that's a fan favorite. Another fan favorite. You can't. Who's actually playing great too. Out of all the fan favorites we've been talking about, Ricky has been playing the best golf by far compared to Spieth and JT. Compared to the rest of the spring break boys.
Is miles better than JT's. I think he gets in, but I tell you one thing. I would absolutely hate to be Zach Johnson right now. I don't know how in the world you're going to make these picks. I don't know if I could sleep.
You're going to piss people off.
There's not, you got guys that will just be like, I thought I was way deserving to be on this team and to not be picked. I mean, maybe they will hold a grudge with ZJ. I don't know, but it's just so damn hard. I mean, all these guys, all 12 of these guys, I could, you could make a point that they should be on the Ryder Cup team, but that just goes back to USA. It's just loaded. I mean, you can't have everybody. So
yeah, I mean, they're in the war room.
Yep.
His wife's got the iPad. He's got the journal. They've been sitting there for the last 4 days, according to Twitter. And they're breaking down all the numbers. They probably, he's got to have like, this can't be just his choice, right? He's got to have like a board of advisors who are feeding him like, almost like the president. It's like, he's not actually the one making those decisions. It's people telling him what to do based on what they come up with.
I think he's probably got the final say, but
for sure.
Got Freddie Couples is with him. And then, whoever the two other assistant coaches or however that works, they're definitely all in the war room. They got their bottles of wine out and they're just hammering it out tonight.
Just getting drunk and making some picks. I mean, just like what we do with fantasy football, except this has massive implications. Yeah, right.
But getting next, we're almost at the end of the list. Burns, going back to Sam Burns. Burns had what he would call probably a mediocre year. He missed 7 cuts, but he was still 19 of 26. Another 6 top 10s, which is pretty damn solid. And he won the Dell match play, which is obviously important here because it's a match play tournament.
Yep.
I believe he went 6-1 or 7-0 in that Dell match play. Absolutely smoked Cam Young in the final. He definitely has a pretty good shot, in my opinion, to making this team, even though that was his only win. But he also, there's been a lot of talk that he works really well with these boys with Scotty. Those two together could be, a force to be reckoned with. So I like Burns here, but again, with so many guys, it's just they're all tough picks.
Burns and Scotty, the future United States bromance.
Yeah, that's
Start
right.
The headline now.
And then really the last guy that we haven't talked to with aside from the Liv, Bryson, and DJ, the last guy is Tony Finau in this mix. And Tony, it was another just kind of weird year with Tony, right? I mean, he played 24 events. He did have 2 wins, but he won at the Houston Open and the Mexico Open, which are not super, highly rated events throughout the year. I believe he was the favorite to win both of them, and he did. He had 5 top 10s, which is pretty good. But, at the end of the day, you could argue, okay, those wins are great and everything, but look who he was kind of playing against. And, Finau, he kind of struggled through the FedEx Cup playoffs. So then how do you kind of put that into a retrospect? And so, I mean, really tough. Another guy who has been on the teams. He's been on
That's what I was going to say. It's that factor of like, well, he's been there before and he can handle himself on the big stage, but God, he just did not have a good year. So it's hard to,
he really didn't.
I mean, not a bad year either, but like, it's just hard to see. Yeah. Hard to see him making it. I saw that name get thrown out there today and I was like, that's a curveball.
Yeah, it definitely. So, I mean, that pretty much wraps up the U.S. Obviously, we touched on Glover a little bit, just kind of too little, too late for the guy. And then as far as Bryson and DJ, I've heard both of those names kind of out there. I think Bryson had a better resume if we're going to go with that. I mean, he was 4th at the PGA. He had a top 20 finish at the U.S. Open. You missed the cut at the Masters, got 60th at the Open. But again, I just don't. I don't know if with the whole Liv thing and it's completely different than Brooks, right? Because Brooks has had a runner-up at a major. He won a major. Bryson, 4th at the PGA is great. Had a great week, but I mean, other than that, it's really tough to make an argument for Bryson. So
there's not enough data on these fucking guys. Like we can't.
Right.
You have to go by their performance in majors. It's so hard to, you can't look at like the Liv stuff and the team shit. You can't use that to make decisions. Like I don't blame Zach Johnson for coming out and saying it's going to be hard for me to decide Liv guys because they don't have cuts, so you can't really use that stat.
Right.
I guess you can do top 10s, but it's like what, a 50, 60 player field? Not even
like 44.
40. Yeah. So
really...
it's like, okay, you're top 10 and a 44. Like you're better than one of 3 guys in there. But then there's some names like Chase Kepka Live. Like the competition is nowhere even near as stiff.
It just drops off, tremendously. So those 2 guys are tough, but that's pretty much USA. It'll be very interesting to see who ends up coming up on top there with those picks. We'll get into Europe. It's definitely a lot easier of a team. You got like the big 9, right? So these are the guys that are 100% on the team. I know the teams haven't came out yet, but like these are your core guys. Obviously, you have Rory, Rahm, Hovland. No discussion about any of those guys. That's 3 of the top 4 players in the world, right?
Right.
So obviously those 3 locks. I mean,
Hovland especially, man, is just terrifying right now.
He is.
I mean,
right
the U.S. better hope that guy spends the next month eating and drinking and partying and not even touching a golf club, because he could take down anybody with maybe one hand at this point. He could beat JT blindfolded right now. That's how fucking good he's hitting the ball. So
unbelievable. His ball striking's top notch.
His chipping made a massive improvement. I think he went from last in strokes gained around the green and chipping to like top 10 maybe. I think he worked with I saw a video on how he worked with his golf coach and figured it out around the greens. So yeah, he's a terrifying person to play against.
Unbelievable.
US team.
Yeah. I mean, you just saw him take over 2 tournaments, and it almost wasn't even fair.
No.
So yeah, I mean, that's those big 3. Obviously, we don't need to touch on. They all had phenomenal years. I mean, Rory, Rahm, Hovland. I mean, that is deadly, right there.
Yeah.
Just those 3 guys. But then you go into kind of the next 3, which again, there's no discussion here. These guys are 100% on the team. Tyrrell Hatton, Matt Fitzpatrick, Shane Lowry. Shane had probably the worst year of those 3, but again, they've all been in Ryder Cups, President's Cups. They're younger guys, 100% on the team. Really, really nothing to talk about there. All very solid golfers.
Lowry played pretty poorly on the PGA Tour, but it seems like whenever he goes back home, he plays a hell of a lot better on those European courses. So based on the location, if this was an American course, it might be a different story. If this was like an Oakmont or something out east, that's a different style. But him on these links courses is just
deadly.
You've seen it before.
Low burner stingers, and they just go forever. So Hatton, Fitz, Lowry, all locks for that. And then you get to really the next 3 and pretty much all locks again with Justin Rose, a little bit of an older guy, but again, locker room guy, had a pretty solid season, still playing pretty well, had a win this year. And then you get into Fleetwood and Sepp Straka, and both of those guys, easy picks. No brainer.
I mean, Fleetwood lost the Canadian Open in what I would call a heartbreak. I mean, I think all he have to do was par 18 or was to win it, and he bogeyed because or maybe it was birdie to win, but it was a very birdieable hole.
It was birdie to win,
a long par 4 for those guys.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a very pretty easy par 5. He needed a birdie to win. He didn't end up getting it, and then he went toe to toe with Nick Taylor for like 4 or 5 holes. And like putts to win every hole. Just didn't get it done.
You feel so bad. That is one of the greatest golfers who has not won a tournament yet.
It's crazy he doesn't have a PGA Tour win. He has so many top 3s. It's crazy.
Did he ever win on DP?
Yeah, he's got 8.
Okay, so he tore it up over there. He's going to win a tournament next year or the year, or maybe he won't. I don't fucking know. He's kind of like Ricky in majors. Like those 2 are the 2 big names you think about now. When you think of great golfers who haven't won a major, I guess you could lump Finau in there as well. But
for sure.
I mean, Justin Rose makes a lot of sense. It's insane. I feel like Justin Rose has been around forever. I mean, he was when I was like 6, 7 years old playing golf video games, he was on them, which is bananas now that I'm a full blown man with a job and a company. So but 100%. He's been playing pretty well this year. He's been in the mix. I think. Did he get cut in the top 50 at BMW? I think he
fell
short.
Yeah,
but
no,
still
you got
impressive
him. I
for
know
a
he
guy
made
of
the
his age.
FedEx. Yeah. He's impressive just being his age, and he's still got it. I mean, he can still
Yeah.
golf.
Well, and it never hurts to have a veteran like him around. I know
Right.
we have, Rory already there, but it's good to have
Yeah.
a couple older
No,
guys
a
to
couple
kind
of
of
them,
steer the ship.
100%. So and then that just leaves Sepp Straka, and Sepp's a lock too.
The
Believe
John Deere
he won the John Deere
by
he got,
like 8.
yeah, I mean, crushed it. I think he shot like a 60 on that Sunday
Yeah.
to win the John Deere, and then he got, I believe, second at the Open. So it shows that obviously another European style course. He's from Austria. It's a no brainer for Sepp Straka. Played actually pretty solid this year. So he's on it. And then, the bubble guys for Europe obviously are, a lot more scarce per se. It's, you talk about Europe, it's a pretty top heavy team. And the last 3 picks, you got Ludwig Aberg,
I think that's a lot.
who is a lock. He only played in 7 tournaments this year, but he had 4 top 25s. He made the cut 6 of 7 times. He had a top 10. He hits the ball a mile, which will just run forever in these conditions. I think he's an absolute lock. He's easily like the one guy that is technically a bubble guy, but he's playing the best where I think he's on it. And then you go to Robert McIntyre. Who is another Scottish fella. I don't know really what he did on the DP World Tour. He must have had a pretty solid year. I know that he got second in that Genesis Scottish Open. They thought he was going to win it, and then Rory just stole his heart, like going back-to-back birdies on 17 and 18 to win that from him. But he's, in my opinion, he's definitely on the team. Played pretty well, just from what I've been told here. But and then you got the next 2. You got this Rasmus Højgaard, who is another like DP World Tour guy. Played really well over there. Again, didn't really see him in too many PGA tournaments, if any. So that's another guy. That's kind of where you get like the short end of the stick here.
Yeah.
With the European team,
it gets tough.
It gets tough. So I don't know really who he's up against, more on that DP World Tour side, but I think he'll probably most likely get in just based off of his numbers over there. And then you got Adrian Meronk, which is another like similar guy, right? He played really well on the DP World Tour. Didn't really see him over here in America on the PGA Tour, but likely gets in just based off the numbers he's doing over there. And that pretty much makes up your European Ryder Cup team. I mean, there might be a few more DP World Tour guys that might be on the bubble, but then again, I mean, it's guys that you really haven't heard of. They're probably obviously very solid golfers. It's just you haven't really heard of them. And that's kind of where Europe drops off a little bit, whereas the United States is just, loaded. So, that's Europe. Plus 140 on their home soil here. This is a very tough, kind of tournament per se, if you want to say tournament, to handicap here, right? Because, the Americans, very solid top to front. But right now, other than, I would argue, Xander, who has been playing lights out, the Europeans have been just outstanding. They've been playing the best. Fitzpatrick's been playing very well. Fleetwood, very well. Hovland, unbelievable. And then you throw in Rory Rahm, who I believe Rory has 10 straight top 8 finishes. It's tough. I mean, as a gambler, you want to, my heart wants to go USA. Obviously, I'm American here. But Europe at plus 140 on their own soil is definitely an intriguing number. And I try to throw out the whole like kind of bias area when I'm making my pick here.
Yeah, you don't want to bet as a fan. I get it.
Right. I don't want to bet as a fan.
I'm just going to call you a terrorist if you bet on Europe.
Right. No, that's all. Which
That's fair.
honestly, I'd probably easily deserve. But yeah, this one's going to be tough. I don't have a bet yet. You can also take spreads. Like, oh, if you really like USA, but you don't want to pay the minus 150 juice, you can take them like minus 2.5. So they got to win by 3 points per se. And you can do that for the other side with Europe. This one's really tough. I don't really know who I would go with. I think Europe is playing better golf with those top, core 9, and especially being over there. I believe I read a stat that the U.S. has not won a Ryder Cup in Europe in the past 30 years. So that stat definitely
that's terrifying.
It's
I did
terrifying.
not know that
30
stat
years.
was a thing. The
Yep.
last 30 fucking years,
30
3
years.
decades. That's longer than me and you have been alive, Sammy.
Yeah, I know they haven't won over in Europe
because I remember Paris was a disaster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that was we got stomped in Paris.
I don't know if it's the fans. I don't know if it's just the quality of golfers that Europe has had. But it's terrifying, right? I mean, that stat alone makes me want to take Europe plus 140 and hammer it. But
yeah.
It's obviously pretty tough to do that as an American. But that's pretty much what we have for the rundown. I think it's going to be one hell of a golf weekend. Other than waking up so damn early, it'll be quite the treat. It's fun that you don't have like these huge like USA. I think USA last Ryder Cup where they pretty much it was I believe the slaughter by the water.
Yeah,
I think before the lines USA was like minus 370. This is a little more interesting because the lines are so similar per se that it's kind of a true toss up here.
it's the way you want to see it, honestly, as a fan of golf, not just a fan of America. You do want to see it as a toss up because the last few years have been kind of boring in terms of how lopsided they've been.
I know. So it'll be interesting to what ZJ picks tomorrow. It's I know Europe still has, I believe their picks are due, even though those top 9 are locks, but the next 3 are due in a week just because the DP World Tour has a tournament this weekend that could get some of the other guys in on points or kind of lapping Moran, Koshgard, McIntyre.
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess we're gonna have to wake up and watch that if we're gonna need something to throw underdog on because now that we're out of the PGA Tour, I don't know what I'm gonna do on Thursdays and Fridays.
Right. So that's an option. But folks, that pretty much wraps up our Ryder Cup predictions talk. We appreciate you joining us. It should be a really, really fun tournament. I know it's not for another month, but these picks are coming out soon, and it should be a doozy. It really should.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be a fun time. We're not gonna get a lot of sleep. We're gonna be filled with adrenaline for Gopher Homecoming. Hopefully, the first time we win in 3 years. But a little combo with the Ryder Cup is gonna make for a great sports weekend. I'm just excited that fall sports are back. I mean, that time the Wild are going to be about a week away. The Wolves will be about a week away. The Vikings and the Gophers will have been playing for almost a month. It's going to be a great time of the year, and this is just making me excited for it.
Yeah, I know. We're pumped. Well, that should pretty much do it. We appreciate everyone joining us. We're counting down the days to the tournament, but it should be interesting with how it all ends up tomorrow. And really it's just the countdown begins, right?
Yep, that's it. All starts with the finalization of the picks, and it's the road to Rome.
All right, folks, appreciate your time.